Some wolves are born to kingdoms, others are carved from silence. The wedding hall gleamed with 1,000 candles, their light dancing across marble floors like scattered stars. Ilara sat at the farthest table, where shadows pooled thick and the music couldn't quite reach. Her dress, borrowed pale blue, 2 seasons old, hung loose on her frame. She'd lost weight since the rejection, since Marcus had stood before the entire pack and severed their bond with 5 words. You were never truly mine. 3 months. That's how long it had been since she'd felt the snap of a mate bond breaking, like a violin string cut mid-song. The pain had been exquisite, a silver knife drawn slowly through her chest. But worse than the pain was what followed, the silence. No one spoke to her anymore. No one met her eyes. She'd become a ghost, haunting the edges of her own pack's gatherings. Tonight was Marcus's sister's wedding. Ilara had only come because refusing would have been seen as weakness, and she had so little left to lose that even the appearance of strength mattered. She watched the couples dance, wolves pressed close, scent marking, laughing. The bride wore silver that caught the firelight. The groom had eyes only for her. Ilara's fingers traced the rim of her untouched wine glass, red, like blood under moonlight. You look like you're planning someone's funeral. The voice came from behind her, deep, textured with an accent she couldn't place. Northern, perhaps. She turned. He was tall, broader than any wolf she'd seen, with hair the color of winter storms and eyes that held something ancient. Scars traced his jaw, silver against tan skin. He wore black, formal but battle-worn, and carried himself like violence was a language he spoke fluently. An alpha. She could feel it in the way the air shifted around him, the way her wolf, dormant for months, suddenly lifted its head. I wasn't aware I had an audience, she said quietly. He moved to stand beside her table, not sitting, just existing in her space with an ease that should have felt intrusive but didn't. Kieran Ashford, Northern Territories. He nodded toward the dance floor. And you're the one everyone's pretending not to see. Heat flushed her cheeks. Is that your idea of polite conversation? No. His mouth curved slightly. But I've never been good at polite. He studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Your former mate is watching, second table from the left, trying very hard to look like he isn't. She didn't turn. Let him watch. He will, and he'll see you sitting alone, and it will confirm every cruel thing he told himself to justify what he did. Kieran extended his hand. Or you could act like you're with me. Ilara stared at his palm, broad, scarred, steady. Why would you do that? Because I know what it's like to be discarded by wolves who never deserved you in the first place. Something flickered in his eyes, dark and old. And because your silence is louder than their music, and I find that interesting. She shouldn't. Every instinct told her this was dangerous, not physically, but in ways that mattered more. This wolf radiated power and pain in equal measure, and she'd had enough of both to last lifetimes. But her hand moved anyway, sliding into his. His grip was warm, careful despite its strength. He pulled her to standing with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his appearance. Just follow my lead, he murmured. And if anyone asks, you've known me for years. That's a lie. Yes. He guided her toward the dance floor, his hand settling at the small of her back. But sometimes lies are kinder than truth. The crowd parted as they walked. She felt eyes turn, whispers rise. Marcus stood frozen near the champagne fountain, his new girlfriend, chosen 3 weeks after the rejection, clutching his arm. Ilara met his gaze for exactly 2 heartbeats, then looked away as if he were merely another stranger in a room full of them. Kieran positioned them at the center of the floor. The music swelled, a waltz, slow and haunting. He held her with the confidence of someone who danced 1,000 times, but there was nothing rehearsed about the way he moved. His eyes never left hers. "You're trembling," he said softly. "I haven't danced since—" She stopped. "Since he broke you." "Not a question." "I know. I can smell the grief on you. It's like winter roses, beautiful and dying." She should have been offended. Instead, tears pricked her eyes. No one had named it before, had acknowledged the shape of her pain. They'd all just looked away. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. Kieran turned them slowly, his thumb tracing small circles against her spine. "Because 3 years ago, I rejected my fated mate to marry for alliance. She was an Omega. I was a king who thought duty mattered more than destiny." His voice dropped to something raw. "She died 6 months later in a border raid, and I've carried that weight every day since." The music seemed to fade. Around them, wolves danced, but Alara only heard the confession in his words, the guilt that matched her own hollowed-out places. "You think saving me from embarrassment will absolve you?" she whispered. "No." His hand tightened on hers. "But maybe it will remind me that mercy still exists, even in wolves like us who've forgotten how to receive it." The song ended. Applause rippled through the hall. Kieran didn't release her immediately, just held her there, 2 broken wolves pretending to be whole. "Thank you," Alara said finally. He stepped back, but his eyes remained serious. "The night isn't over. They'll expect us to stay together now. Are you prepared for that?" She looked past him to where Marcus stood, his face tight with something she recognized as regret. Too late. Far too late. "Yes," she said. "I am." Kieran offered his arm. She took it. And as they walked to a table where they could sit side by side, where candlelight would catch the silver in his scars and the quiet strength in her spine, Alara felt something shift. Not healing. Not yet. But the first breath after drowning. The moon watched through tall windows, patient and knowing. The evening unfolded in careful choreography. Kieran stayed close, his presence a shield that transformed stares into respect. He spoke little, but listened completely, and Alara found herself talking about her work at the Pack Library, about the mountains she'd grown up in, about small things that felt enormous in the telling because no one had cared to hear them in months. "You catalog histories," he said, swirling wine he hadn't drunk. "That's rare for an Omega." "Is it?" She bristled slightly. "Or is it just rare for anyone to notice?" A smile ghosted across his mouth. "Fair." Across the hall, Marcus's mother approached their table. Sylvia Thorne had always been kind to Alara before. Now her face was composed into careful neutrality. "Alpha Kieran," she said smoothly. "We weren't expecting northern representation tonight." "Last-minute decision," he replied, standing. His voice carried that particular alpha resonance that ended questions before they started. "Your territory has a reputation for hospitality. I wanted to see if it was deserved." Sylvia's eyes flicked to Alara, then back. "And you found it satisfactory?" "More than. Your librarian has been excellent company." The emphasis on your was deliberate, a reminder that Alara still belonged to this pack, still had value. Sylvia's expression softened fractionally. "I'm glad." She hesitated. "Alara, it's good to see you looking well." The words were genuine, if complicated. Alara managed a smile. "Thank you, Sylvia." When she left, Kieran sat back down. That was diplomatic of her. She didn't approve of what Marcus did, but she couldn't say so publicly. Alara traced patterns on the tablecloth. Pack politics. Are always ugly. He turned his glass slowly. In the North, we handle rejection differently. The rejected party gets to issue one challenge, physical, mental, or spiritual. If they win, the bond is reinstated. If they lose, they're released with honor and resources. That sounds civilized. It's brutal, but honest. His eyes held hers. Would you have challenged him? She thought about it. Thought about facing Marcus in combat or riddles or some test of will, knowing the entire pack would watch, knowing she might lose not just the challenge, but the last shred of dignity she had left. "No," she said finally, "because I don't want someone who has to be won back. I want someone who chooses me when it's difficult." Kieran's expression shifted. Respect, recognition, something deeper. That's the difference between wisdom and pride, or cowardice and self-preservation. Same thing sometimes. The band shifted to something slower. Around them, couples pulled closer. Elara watched the bride dance with her father, both of them crying happy tears. "Do you miss it?" she asked quietly. "Having a mate?" Kieran was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Every day, but I don't miss the person I was when I had her. That wolf was arrogant, certain. He thought he could control fate." He set down his glass. "I miss who she might have helped me become." The ache in his voice was familiar. Elara understood loss that wasn't just about the person, but about the future that died with them. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be. I made my choice." He met her eyes. "But you didn't. Yours was made for you. That's the difference that matters." Before she could respond, the music died. The wedding coordinator stepped to the microphone, announcing that the bride and groom would depart soon. Guests began gathering near the entrance for the farewell. Kieran stood, offering his hand again. "Walk with me." They slipped through a side door into the gardens. The night was clear and cold, stars sharp as broken glass. Frost silvered the hedges, their breath misted white. "This is better," Elara said, pulling her shawl tighter. "I was suffocating in there." "I know. I could smell it. The way your scent turned bitter around the edges." He walked beside her, hands in his pockets. "You don't belong in rooms like that." "Where do I belong then?" He stopped near a fountain, water frozen mid-splash. "Somewhere wild, somewhere that doesn't ask you to make yourself smaller." He turned to face her. "You have a gift, Elara. I can feel it. Something dormant. Waiting." Her heart jumped. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." His voice was gentle but certain. "You're a pathfinder. Rare among Omegas. You can sense true bonds, red destinies, guide lost wolves home." He stepped closer. "That's why Marcus rejected you. Not because you were weak, but because you were too strong. You would have seen through every lie he told himself." She wanted to deny it, but deep down, in places she'd locked away after the rejection, she knew he was right. She'd always sensed things, who belonged together, who was lying, which paths led to safety. She'd thought it was intuition, but it was more. "How do you know?" she whispered. "Because my mate was one, and when she died, I lost the one wolf who could have told me if redemption was possible." His jaw tightened. "I've been searching for another pathfinder for 3 years, and tonight, the moment I saw you, I knew." The moon emerged from behind clouds, flooding the garden with silver light. Elara felt it like a touch, cool, knowing, ancient. Her wolf rose fully for the first time in months, stretching toward that lunar pull. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Nothing tonight. Tonight, you needed someone to see you." "I did." He reached up slowly, telegraphing the movement. His fingers brushed her cheek, catching a tear she hadn't known was falling. "But tomorrow, if you're willing, I want to ask you something impossible." "What?" "Come north with me. Train. Learn what you are. And when you're ready—" He paused, something vulnerable crossing his face. "Tell me if I can ever be forgiven." The request hung between them, enormous and terrifying, and somehow inevitable. "I don't even know you," Elara said. "No, but you know what it means to be discarded, and I know what it means to live with ghosts." His hand fell away. "Think about it. I'll be in town for 3 more days." He started to walk back toward the hall, then stopped. Elara? Yes? You were magnificent tonight. The way you held your head high, the way you didn't let them make you small. His smile was sad and fierce. Don't ever forget that. Then he was gone, footsteps crunching on frost. Elara stood alone in the garden, the fountain frozen beside her. The moon watching overhead. Inside, she could hear the final toasts, the laughter, the celebration of bonds that hadn't shattered. But out here, in the cold and silence, she felt something else. A stirring, a possibility, the beginning of a choice that was entirely her own. 3 days passed, like held breath. Elara worked in the library, cataloging histories of border wars and ancient treaties, but her mind wandered north. She'd researched Kieran's territory, harsh mountains, winter that lasted 8 months, packs that valued strength but honored wisdom. His reputation was complex, fair but ruthless, strategic but haunted. A king who'd lost his way and was trying to find it again. On the second day, a package arrived. Inside, a book bound in midnight leather, pages edged in silver. The title read, Pathways of the Moon, a guide for those who guide others. No note, but she knew. She read it cover to cover that night. The histories of Pathfinders. Omegas born with the ability to sense true bonds, to navigate spiritual landscapes, to lead wolves through their darkest moments toward light. Rare, powerful, often feared because they couldn't be lied to. Marcus had known. On some level, he'd sensed what she was and rejected her before she could see through him. The third day, she made her decision. The northern delegation was staying at the Pack's guest lodge, a stone building on the territory's edge. Elara arrived at dusk when the sky was purple and the first stars emerged. 2 guards stood at the entrance, both massive, both assessing her with professional courtesy. I'm here to see Alpha Kieran, she said. Name? Elara Thorne. One guard's expression shifted. Recognition, perhaps approval. He opened the door. 2nd floor, last room on the right. The lodge was warm, smelling of pine and leather. She climbed stairs worn smooth by generations of visitors, her heart hammering. At his door, she paused, knocked once. Enter. Kieran stood by the window, outlined in fading light. He'd changed from formal wear to simple clothes, dark shirt, worn pants, boots, more himself. When he turned, his expression was carefully neutral, but she saw hope underneath. I thought you might not come, he said. I almost didn't. She stepped inside, closing the door. This is insane. Leaving my pack, traveling north with an alpha I met 3 days ago. It is. I could be walking into something worse than rejection. You could. But? She waited. He moved closer, but stopped an arm's length away. But I watched you sit alone at that wedding, and I saw a wolf who'd survived something that should have broken her. I saw strength that doesn't come from never falling. It comes from getting back up when no one's watching. His voice roughened. I need someone like that. Someone who understands that redemption isn't given. It's built day by day, choice by choice. And if I can't tell you what you want to hear, if I train as a pathfinder and see that forgiveness isn't possible, then at least I'll know. His eyes held hers. And you'll have learned what you're capable of. Either way, you won't be the wolf sitting in shadows anymore. The moon rose outside, visible through the window, full, luminous, patient. Elara thought of her small apartment, her library job, the pack that had watched her fall and done nothing. She thought of Marcus and the ghost of their broken bond. She thought of the book Kieran had sent, the histories of wolves like her who'd changed destinies. I have conditions, she said. Relief flickered across his face. Name them. I'm not your subordinate. I'm your partner in this. Equal status. Agreed. If I tell you to stop pursuing redemption, if I sense it's not possible, you accept that." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Agreed. And if I find that I'm not strong enough, or that this path isn't mine, you let me leave without debt or obligation." "Yes." He extended his hand. "Anything else?" She looked at his palm, scarred, steady, offering something she'd stopped believing in. Not love, not yet, but possibility. "Teach me what I am," she said, placing her hand in his, "and I'll tell you what you can become." His grip tightened. "We leave at dawn." "I'll be ready. And now I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments of the night they find you. The journey north took 4 days. They traveled by car through forests that grew darker and mountains that climbed higher. Kieran drove in comfortable silence, occasionally pointing out landmarks, an ancient pack boundary marker, a river where treaties had been signed in blood, ruins of castles that predated recorded history. Alara watched the landscape transform. The south had been soft, cultivated, civilized. The north was raw. Trees grew gnarled and twisted. Snow appeared in patches, then blankets, then absolute dominion. The air tasted different, sharper, cleaner, like breathing had suddenly become an act of defiance. On the second night, they stopped at a way station built into a mountain's face. Other travelers filled the common room, northern wolves with eyes like winter storms and southern merchants trading in furs and silver. Kieran secured them separate rooms without comment, respecting boundaries even as the mate bond between them began to pulse with awareness neither acknowledged. "Tell me about your mate," Alara said over dinner. Venison stew, dark bread, wine that burned going down. Kieran's spoon paused halfway to his mouth. "You want to know about Elena? If I'm going to help you find redemption, I need to understand what you're seeking redemption for." He set down the spoon. "She was my fated mate. I felt the bond snap into place the moment I turned 21, standing in my father's war room, planning border defenses, and suddenly I couldn't breathe because somewhere out there she existed." His voice was distant, remembering. "It took me 6 months to find her. A healer in a small village on the eastern border. Omega. Kind. She had this laugh that sounded like water over stones. But you rejected her. My father was dying. Our territory was under threat from 3 sides. The council insisted I marry the alpha daughter of our strongest ally, political bond, military advantage." He met her eyes. "I was 22 and stupid enough to think I could control fate. So I rejected Elena before the bond could fully form. Married Vera 3 months later." "Did you love Vera?" "I respected her. We were partners in ruling, nothing more. She knew about Elena. Most political marriages do." He took a long drink of wine. 6 months after my wedding, raiders attacked the eastern villages. Elena was killed defending her patients. She had no warrior training, no combat experience, just courage. The silence that followed was heavy. "How did you find out?" Alara asked softly. "A survivor told me. Said Elena had healed 12 wolves while the village burned around her. Could have fled, chose to stay." His hand tightened on his glass. "I went to the ruins, found her body, and the bond I'd rejected snapped fully into place posthumously, just long enough for me to feel everything I'd thrown away before it shattered permanently." Alara's chest ached. "That's not just guilt. That's spiritual agony." "Yes," he looked at her directly, "and I've carried it every day since. Vera stayed married to me for 2 years out of duty, then asked for dissolution. She's happily bonded to someone else now. My territory is stable. I've been a good king by every measure except the one that matters. I destroyed my own destiny." "Is that why you need a pathfinder? To tell you if you can find Elena in the next life?" "No." His answer was immediate. I need a pathfinder to tell me if I'm capable of honoring a bond now, if the broken thing inside me can be trusted with someone else's heart. He leaned forward. Because I can't keep ruling while carrying this ghost. And I won't inflict myself on another mate without knowing if I've changed. It was the most honest thing anyone had ever said to her. What if I tell you you're not ready? Alara asked. Then I'll wait and work and try again. His smile was grim. I've learned patience through suffering. They finished dinner in contemplative quiet. Later, as Alara lay in her small room listening to wind howl outside, she felt her Pathfinder gift stirring. Kieran's pain was real, but so was his capacity for change. He wasn't seeking absolution, he was seeking transformation. That made him dangerous in a different way. On the fourth day, they crossed into northern territory. The landscape opened into a valley ringed by white mountains, and at its heart stood Kieran's stronghold, part fortress, part cathedral, all defiance against the elements. Dark stone, high towers, windows that caught light like ice. Home, Kieran said simply. They were met by his second-in-command, a woman named Astrid with silver hair and scars that spoke of decades in combat. She assessed Alara with one sharp look, then nodded. The Pathfinder's quarters are ready, she said to Kieran. Pathfinder? Alara glanced at him. Word travels fast in the north, and you are what you are. We might as well honor it. Astrid led them through corridors carved from living stone, past tapestries depicting lunar ceremonies and battle victories, to a suite in the East Tower. The rooms were beautiful, fireplace large enough to walk into, windows overlooking the valley, furniture worn smooth by time. On the bed lay a cloak of midnight blue, silver moons embroidered along the hem. Traditional garb for Pathfinders, Astrid explained. You're the first we've had in 30 years. When they were alone, Alara touched the cloak. The fabric was softer than anything she'd owned. This is real, she said quietly. Kieran leaned against the doorframe. You can still leave. I'll take you back south tomorrow if you ask. She turned to face him. Do you want me to leave? No. The word was barely audible. But I want you to stay because you choose it, not because you feel obligated. The bond between them pulsed, not mate bond, but something else. Recognition. Two broken wolves who understood that healing wasn't weakness. I'm staying, Alara said. At least until I know what I am. His expression softened with something that might have been relief or hope or both. Training starts tomorrow. It won't be easy. Good, she said. I'm done with easy. He left her then, closing the door softly. Alara stood at the window, watching snow begin to fall. The moon hung above the mountains, full and watchful. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. She felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Winter deepened. Training began. Alara learned that being a Pathfinder wasn't about reading minds or predicting futures. It was about sensing the truth beneath surfaces. Astrid taught her meditation techniques passed down through generations, how to quiet her own pain so she could hear others. Kieran's court healer, an ancient wolf named Torin, showed her how to track emotional resonance, the way bonds shimmered like heat over summer stone. Every wolf carries a thread, Torin explained, his voice rough with age. Pathfinders see where threads tangle fray or shine true. You don't create bonds. You illuminate what already exists. The work was exhausting. Each session left her drained, emotions bleeding together until she couldn't tell her grief from others. But slowly, agonizingly, her gift sharpened. She began to see Kieran's court with new clarity. The beta who smiled, but whose thread was knotted with resentment. The young warrior whose destined mate lived in enemy territory. The elder councilwoman whose grief for her dead son colored every decision. You're seeing the architecture of our pack, Kieran said one evening. They walked the ramparts, breath misting, stars hard overhead. That's what pathfinders do. They show us the invisible structures we've built. It's overwhelming, Alara admitted. So much pain, so much longing. How do you rule knowing everyone around you is carrying something this heavy? By carrying my own weight first. He stopped, looking out over the valley. Leadership isn't about being unburdened. It's about showing others that you can bear your load and still move forward. She studied his profile, sharp, scarred, weary. Your thread is different from others. How? It's silver instead of gold, marked by the moon goddess directly. She hesitated. I've never seen that before. Elena had it too. It's rare. Means we're bound to something larger than pack or territory. We're bound to cycles of death and rebirth. His voice was matter-of-fact. When I rejected her, I broke a sacred pattern. That's why the pain doesn't fade. Understanding crashed through Alara. You're not just seeking personal redemption. You're seeking cosmic realignment. Yes, he turned to her. And that's why I need you. A normal wolf couldn't navigate this. But a pathfinder can see if the pattern can be rewoven, or if I've damaged it beyond repair. The weight of it was staggering. This wasn't about one alpha's guilt. It was about a disruption in the natural order. I need time, Alara said, to get strong enough to read something that deep. Take what you need. His hand brushed hers, brief and warm. I've waited 3 years. I can wait longer. Training intensified. Torin taught her to enter meditative trances where she could walk spiritual landscapes, places where threads became roads and bonds became bridges. Astrid taught her combat because pathfinders need bodies as strong as their gifts. Kieran taught her northern politics, pack law, the delicate balance between mercy and strength. Weeks became months. Snow piled higher. Alara's body hardened, her gift deepened, and slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, her own thread began to heal. The ragged edges where Marcus had torn their bond started to smooth. Not disappearing, but transforming into something that looked like wisdom instead of wound. One night, during a full moon ceremony, Alara stood in the sacred grove where northern packs gathered to honor the goddess. Wolves surrounded her, hundreds of them, all tilting faces toward silver light. She could see their threads now, a tapestry of connections spanning generations. And then she saw it. Kieran's silver thread didn't end in darkness where Elena had died. It curved upward, waiting, incomplete but not destroyed. A pattern that could still be finished if the right elements aligned. She turned to find him watching her from across the grove. Their eyes met. He can be redeemed, she realized, but not alone. After the ceremony, they walked back to the stronghold in silence. At her tower door, Kieran stopped. You saw something, he said. Yes. Will you tell me? Alara looked up at him. This broken king who'd given her purpose when she had none, who'd honored her gift instead of fearing it. Not yet. I need to be certain. I understand. He stepped back, but something in his expression was different. Softer. Alara? Yes? Thank you. For staying. For trying. He smiled, and it transformed his face from weary to almost young. You've given me something I'd stopped believing in. What? Hope. He left her with that word hanging in cold air. Inside, Alara touched the cloak she now wore daily, midnight blue, silver moons. She'd become what she was meant to be. The wolf who sat alone at that wedding felt like a stranger now. But becoming meant choosing. And soon she'd have to choose what came next. The moon watched through her window, patient as always, waiting to see what 2 broken wolves would build from their ruins. Spring came tentatively to the north, snow retreating to mountain peaks, ice melting into streams that sang. With it came a summons Kieran couldn't refuse, the High Council meeting at neutral territory where all Northern Pack leaders gathered to discuss borders, trade, and territorial disputes. "I need to go," he told Alara over breakfast. 2 weeks, maybe 3. She'd known this was coming. "Will you take Astrid? And 20 others, full security detail." He paused. "I want you to come." "Why?" "Because the council will have disputes that need mediating, bonds that need reading. You're ready for this, letting others see what you can do." His voice lowered. "And because I don't want to be away from you that long." The admission hung between them. In the months they'd spent together, the bond had shifted. Still not romantic, but deeper than friendship. Partnership, respect, something that felt like the foundation love could be built on if they chose. "All right," Alara said. "I'll come." The journey to neutral territory took 5 days through awakening wilderness. They traveled with the full northern delegation, warriors on horseback, supply wagons, scouts ranging ahead. Alara rode beside Kieran, learning the rhythms of pack movement. Astrid rode close, occasionally pointing out landmarks. "That ridge is where we fought the Western incursion 15 years ago. That valley is sacred ground, where the first Northern Alpha made peace with the moon goddess." "Your history is written in blood and snow," Alara observed. "Yes, but also in endurance." Astrid's smile was fierce. "That's the Northern way. We survive what should kill us, then thrive." The council grounds were impressive, carved into a mountain amphitheater, with pavilions for each pack. Hundreds of wolves gathered, the air thick with competing scents and territorial posturing. Kieran's arrival caused a stir. He was respected, but his rejection of Elna and subsequent isolation had made him suspect in some eyes. The first 2 days were politics, trade agreements, boundary disputes, arguments that went in circles. Alara watched, learning the power dynamics. But on the 3rd day, the council called for her. "We've heard rumors of a pathfinder in the north," the High Elder said. "A massive female wolf with silver shot through black fur. We wish to test this claim." Kieran stiffened beside her, but Alara stood. "What test do you propose?" 3 wolves will come forward, read their threads, tell us what you see." It was a challenge, but also an opportunity. If she failed, her legitimacy would be questioned. If she succeeded, her gift would be undeniable. "Agreed," Alara said. The first wolf was young, barely 20, with fear in his eyes. Alara reached out with her gift, seeing immediately. His thread split in 2 directions. "You're torn between duty and destiny," she said softly. "Your father wants you to marry the daughter of your ally. But your fated mate lives in the Eastern Territories. The bond hasn't snapped yet, but it will within the year." Gasps rippled through the gathered wolves. The young wolf's face went pale. "How did you—" "I see threads, not secrets. But you should know, true bonds can survive political marriages, but they require honesty." She met his eyes. "Tell your father. Let him choose between alliance and destiny." The second wolf was older, scarred, with grief rolling off him like fog. Alara looked, and her breath caught. "Your mate died in battle 6 months ago. You're considering joining her, walking into the mountains until the cold takes you." His throat worked. "Yes, don't." Her voice was gentle but firm. "Your thread doesn't end with her death. It curves toward another purpose, leadership specifically. You're meant to become alpha of your pack when your current leader steps down in 3 years. If you die now, 30 wolves will suffer needlessly." "How can I lead," he choked out, "when I'm broken?" "All the best leaders are broken first. That's what gives them compassion." She held his gaze. "Honor her by living, by using your grief to understand others' pain." The third wolf was the High Elder herself. She stepped forward with a challenge in her eyes. "Read me, Pathfinder." This was the true test. Alara closed her eyes, reaching deep, and saw a thread so old and tangled it looked like ancient roots. "You've lived 3 normal lifespans," she said slowly, "blessed by the moon goddess for service. But the blessing is becoming a curse. Everyone you love dies before you." She opened her eyes. "You're tired, and you're wondering if it's time to ask the goddess to release you." Silence, absolute. The High Elder's expression cracked. "Yes, she already knows, and she's waiting for you to finish one last task before she grants your rest." Alara stepped closer. "There's a young wolf in your pack, barely 12, thinks she's worthless because she can't shift. But she's another pathfinder. Find her, train her, pass your knowledge forward, then you'll be free." Tears slid down the elder's face. "I'd stopped looking for meaning. It's there. It's always there." Alara's voice was soft. "We just need someone to show us where to look." The council erupted into whispers, arguments, awe. Kieran stood, his voice cutting through chaos. "My Pathfinder has proven herself. Any who doubt her gift can bring their disputes to her directly." For the rest of the council meeting, Alara worked. She mediated territorial disputes by showing wolves their tangled threads of pride and fear. She identified true bonds, dissolved false ones, guided lost wolves toward purpose. She worked until her gift burned through her and exhaustion made her hands shake. But when it was done, when the council closed with respect in every eye, she'd established something unbreakable: legitimacy. That night, Kieran found her on a ridge overlooking the camp. He sat beside her without speaking for long minutes. "You changed things today," he said finally. "I just showed them what was already there." "No, you showed them that broken things can still be useful. That's revolutionary." He turned to her. "You showed me that too." Their eyes met. The bond between them pulsed, still not romantic, but teetering on the edge of something deeper. "Kieran," Alara said softly, "I need to tell you something. About your thread." He went very still. "I'm listening." "It's not broken. It's incomplete. Elena's death didn't destroy your pattern. It interrupted it. But the goddess left the thread open, waiting." She took his hand. "You can find redemption, but not by going back, only by going forward." "What does that mean?" She squeezed his fingers. "It means your story isn't over, and neither is mine. Subscribe if you believe mercy can crown even the fallen." They returned north as spring deepened into early summer. The stronghold had changed in their absence. Repairs completed, gardens planted, life asserting itself against the harshness of mountain existence. But Alara felt a deeper shift. The pack looked at her differently now, with respect, with hope. Kieran resumed his duties as king, but with new energy. He implemented changes based on what Ilara's gift had revealed, dissolved a political betrothal that was making 2 wolves miserable, promoted the grieving warrior she'd counseled to a position of leadership, established trade with eastern territories that had previously been closed. "You're governing differently," Astrid observed one evening in the war room, studying maps. "Because I'm seeing differently," Kieran replied. "Ilara showed me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about what you build after." But with change came resistance. 3 council members, old guard, traditional, approached Kieran with concerns. "The Pathfinder has too much influence," said Elder Thomas, his gray beard braided with silver rings. "She's Omega, outsider, yet you restructure our entire society based on her visions." Kieran's voice went cold. "They're not visions. They're truths you've been ignoring." "She's bewitched you," another elder hissed. "Just like the last Omega, history repeats Alpha." The words landed like blows. Kieran stood, and the room temperature seemed to drop. "Ilara has proven herself to this pack and to the High Council. If you question her legitimacy, you question my judgment. Choose carefully." They retreated, but their resentment festered. Ilara felt it in the corridors, whispers that followed her, threads of suspicion and fear. Some wolves loved what she represented. Others hated it. "I'm causing division," she told Kieran late one night. They stood on the ramparts, summer stars bright overhead. "No. You're forcing people to confront what they've been avoiding." He leaned against stone. "That always creates conflict. Maybe I should leave, before it gets worse." He turned to her sharply. "Do you want to leave?" Alara searched her heart. The truth was complicated. She'd built a life here, discovered purpose, found herself. But she'd also grown attached in ways that scared her. Not just to the work, but to him. "No," she admitted, "but I don't want to be the reason your pack fractures." "They're fracturing because they're growing. Growing always hurts." His hand found hers in darkness. "You're not the wound, Alara. You're the healing that reveals where the wounds were." A commotion below interrupted them, raised voices, the clash of steel. They raced down to the training yard where two wolves circled each other with drawn blades. One was young, barely 18. The other was Elder Thomas's son. "He said the Pathfinder spread lies," the young wolf shouted. "That she tricked the Alpha." Astrid stood between them, but the tension was explosive. Kieran pushed through the crowd. "Enough!" His Alpha voice cracked like thunder. "Weapons down. Now." They obeyed, but barely. The young wolf, Henrik, turned to Kieran with desperate eyes. "She helped me, Alpha. The Pathfinder saw that I didn't have to follow my father's path, that I could choose my own destiny. They're trying to erase that." "No one will erase truth in my territory," Kieran said quietly, dangerously. "Thomas, your son has a grievance. Speak." Thomas's son, Marcus, cruelly named, sneered. "She's turning our young away from tradition, making them think bonds matter more than duty. That's weakness." "Is it?" Kieran's voice was soft. "Or is it the strength to admit that we've been wrong?" The crowd went silent. This was the moment, Kieran publicly choosing Ilara's vision over the old ways. "I was wrong," Kieran continued, voice carrying to every corner of the yard. 3 years ago, I rejected my fated mate for politics. I chose duty over destiny, and it nearly destroyed me." He looked at Thomas, at Marcus, at every wolf gathered. "The Pathfinder showed me that our traditions need to evolve, that bonds matter, that love isn't weakness. It's the foundation everything else is built on." "You're Alpha," Thomas said coldly. "You can afford such luxuries. The rest of us must sacrifice." "Then maybe we're asking too much sacrifice." Kieran's eyes blazed. "I won't rule a pack that crushes its wolves under tradition's weight. Change is coming. Those who can't accept that should consider whether this is still their home." The threat was clear. Several elders looked furious, but Henrik and others his age looked hopeful. The crowd dispersed slowly, uneasy. Kieran pulled Alara aside. "That was dangerous," she said. "You just drew a line." "Good. It needed to be drawn." His jaw was set. "I spent 3 years paralyzed by guilt and indecision. Not anymore." "Kieran, I love you." The words stopped her cold. He'd said them simply, directly, without flourish. "What?" "I love you," he repeated. "Not because you're a Pathfinder, though that matters. Not because you healed me, though you did. But because you sat alone at a wedding and didn't let it make you small. Because you're fierce and gentle and honest in ways that terrify me." He took her hands. "I'm not asking you to say it back. I'm just telling you the truth." Alara's heart hammered. She'd felt this growing for months, but hadn't named it, scared of another rejection. "I don't know if I can do this again. Trust someone with my heart. I know, and I won't rush you." His thumb traced her knuckles. "But you asked me to go forward, not back. This is me going forward, choosing you when it's difficult." The words echoed what she'd said months ago. Tears pricked her eyes. "I need time," she whispered. "Take it." He kissed her forehead, gentle and brief. "I'll wait." Later, alone in her tower, Alara stood at the window. The summer night was soft, star-filled, the moon waning toward dark. She touched her chest where the broken bond with Marcus had been. The scar was still there, but it no longer hurt. Kieran loved her, and she loved him too. Terrifyingly, completely. But love wasn't the question. The question was whether she was brave enough to try again. To choose hope when fear was easier. To walk forward into unknown territory with a wolf who'd proven he could break hearts, but who was desperately trying not to break hers. The moon offered no answers, just light, just presence, just the reminder that cycles ended and began and ended again, and the only constant was change. Summer peaked. The conflict Kieran had sparked didn't explode, it simmered. Traditionalists formed a quiet faction, not rebellious but resistant. Progressive wolves rallied around Alara's teachings, eager for change. The pack existed in uneasy balance. Alara continued her work, mediating disputes, reading threads, teaching young wolves how to honor bonds while maintaining strength. But she felt the pressure building. She was catalyst and target, hope and threat. And through it all, Kieran waited. He didn't press, didn't demand, just existed in her orbit with patient intensity that made her ache. One evening, Torrin summoned her to the sacred grove. "You've been avoiding something," the old healer said without preamble. Alara sat on a stone bench. "What?" "Reading your own thread." She flinched. "I'm not ready." "You're terrified." His eyes were kind but piercing. "Because you know what you'll see, and it means choosing." "Choosing what?" "Whether to accept the bond the goddess is offering, or walk away from it." Torrin settled beside her. "Kieran's thread is open, waiting. So is yours." The goddess left them incomplete deliberately, giving you both choice. But choice requires courage. What if I choose wrong? What if I can't handle another rejection? Then you'll survive it, like you survived the last one. But Alara, he gripped her shoulder. What if you choose right? What if you're walking away from the one bond that could actually heal both of you? The question haunted her. That night, she did what she'd been avoiding for months. She entered deep meditation and looked at her own thread. It was golden, like most wolves. But where Marcus had torn it, silver had grown through the break, the goddess's mark, claiming her for something larger. And extending from that silver was a new line, reaching toward Kieran's thread. Silver meeting silver. A pattern the goddess herself had woven, fated mates, not replacement for what he'd lost, not compensation for what she'd survived, but a new design entirely, two broken wolves who'd earned wisdom through suffering, being offered a second chance. Alara gasped out of the meditation, tears streaming. It was real. The goddess had chosen them for each other, but only after they'd both learned what love actually cost. She found Kieran in the war room, alone, studying reports by candlelight. He looked up, and whatever he saw in her face made him stand. "Alara?" "I saw our threads," she said. "We're fated mates." He went very still. "Are you certain?" "Yes." She crossed to him. "The goddess marked us both, silver threads, waiting to connect." "But," her voice broke, "Kieran, what if we ruin it? What if the trauma is too much?" He reached out slowly, cupping her face. "Then we'll ruin it together and learn from the ruins. But what if we don't? What if we honor it and build something beautiful?" "I'm scared." "So am I." His forehead touched hers. "But I'm more scared of living the rest of my life wondering what we could have been." The bond snapped into place, not slowly, not gently, but like lightning strike, white-hot, inevitable, perfect. Alara felt it lance through her chest, felt her wolf surge to meet his, felt every broken piece of herself suddenly held by someone who understood breaks intimately. Kieran made a sound between gasp and prayer. His arms came around her, solid and sure. "I feel you," he whispered against her hair. "Everything. The pain, the hope, the fear. I feel it all." "I feel you too," she clung to him. "Your guilt, your determination, your love, it's overwhelming." "Is it too much?" She pulled back to look at him. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. "No, it's exactly enough." He kissed her then, careful, reverent, like she was something precious. She kissed back, pouring months of longing and fear and hope into the contact. When they broke apart, both were shaking. "What now?" Kieran asked. "Now we tell the pack, and we deal with whatever comes." Alara touched his face. "Together, together," he agreed. They announced the bond at the full moon ceremony. The pack gathered in the sacred grove, wolves of all ages surrounding the altar stone. Alara wore her pathfinder cloak. Kieran wore his formal armor but removed his crown, standing before his pack not as king but as wolf. "The moon goddess has blessed us," he said, voice carrying to every corner. "Ilara and I are fated mates. Our threads have joined with her approval." The progressive faction erupted in joy, howls of celebration. Voices raised in approval. But the traditionalists were silent, faces ranging from skeptical to hostile. Elder Thomas stepped forward. "This is too convenient. The Omega Pathfinder arrives, heals the Alpha, and suddenly they're fated? Forgive us for questioning divine timing." "Question all you want," Alara said, stepping beside Kieran. "But I can show you the threads. Any Pathfinder can verify what I see." "There are no other Pathfinders to verify it." "Yet," Kieran said. "The High Council is training one now, thanks to Alara's vision. In 6 months, she'll be ready. If you can wait that long for proof, we'll provide it." Thomas's eyes narrowed. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, I rule. Ilara guides. And we continue evolving this pack into something that honors both tradition and truth." Kieran's voice hardened. "Those who can't accept that are free to leave. No judgment, no punishment, just acknowledgement that we're walking different paths now." It was a gamble, offering exit rather than demanding loyalty. Several traditionalists looked tempted, but none moved. "We'll stay," Thomas said finally, "but we reserve the right to verify this bond when the time comes." "Agreed." Kieran extended his hand. After a long moment, Thomas took it. The ceremony continued, prayers to the goddess, songs older than memory, the formal acknowledgement of the bond. When the moon reached its peak, Kieran and Alara stood together, letting moonlight bathe them silver. "By the goddess's grace," the ceremonial elder intoned, "these wolves are bound. Let none divide what moon and destiny have joined." The pack howled. Approval, celebration, acceptance. Not universal, but enough. As the ceremony closed, Kieran pulled Alara close. "No regrets?" he murmured. She looked up at him, scarred, strong, hers. "Only that I didn't say yes sooner." His smile was pure light. "We have time now, all the time we need." They walked back to the stronghold hand in hand, their threads glowing silver in the moonlight, two broken wolves who'd found each other and chosen healing over fear. 6 months passed. Autumn painted the mountains gold and red before winter returned. The young Pathfinder from the High Council arrived, a 12-year-old named Luna with eyes that saw too much and a gift that was raw but undeniable. She confirmed what Alara had claimed. The bond between her and Kieran was genuine, blessed, fated. The last resistance crumbled. Even Thomas acknowledged the truth, though he did so grudgingly. The pack evolved. Political marriages were no longer mandatory. Wolves were encouraged to seek fated bonds, but also to choose carefully, even without fate's blessing. Ilara established a school for pathfinders, young Omegas who showed the gift, taught to honor their abilities rather than fear them. Kieran governed with newfound wisdom. He was still alpha, still fierce, but tempered by the understanding that strength and compassion weren't opposites, they were partners. On the winter solstice, they held a second ceremony, not because they needed to prove anything, but because they wanted to celebrate what they'd built. The sacred grove was deep with snow. Torches burned bright against darkness. Every pack wolf gathered, plus delegations from allied territories, 100 witnesses to transformation. Ilara wore white this time, fur-lined and embroidered with silver wolves. Kieran wore formal armor engraved with moon phases. They stood before the altar stone where Elena's name was carved alongside countless others who'd served the goddess. "Elena," Kieran said softly, touching the stone. "Thank you for teaching me what love costs. I won't dishonor that lesson." He turned to Ilara. "And I won't dishonor what the goddess has given us." Ilara placed her hand over his on the stone. "We honor the past by living fully in the present." The ceremonial elder, ancient, blind, but present, raised her hands. "The goddess sees what mortals miss. She sees that redemption isn't erasure. It's integration. These wolves carry their scars and their wisdom forward together." She pressed their joined hands. "May your bond strengthen this pack. May your love remind us that broken things, healed with intention, become unbreakable." They spoke their vows, not traditional, but honest. Promises to choose each other daily, to communicate through conflict, to honor the gift they'd been given by treating it as sacred rather than inevitable. When the ceremonial kiss came, the pack erupted in celebration. Howls echoed off mountains, music started, drums and strings and voices raised in ancient songs. Kieran pulled Ilara close, swaying to the rhythm. "No regrets? Are you going to ask me that every 6 months?" "Probably," she laughed. The sound, pure joy. "Then my answer will always be the same, none, not one." They danced until the fire burned low and the moon set. Then they retreated to their chambers, no longer separate towers, but shared space they'd built together. Windows overlooked the valley, fireplace roaring, furs piled deep. "I have something for you," Kieran said, producing a small box. Inside was a necklace, silver chain, pendant shaped like a crescent moon with a wolf howling at its curve. Simple, beautiful, perfect. "It was Elena's," he said quietly. "She wore it until the day she died. I kept it, guilt talisman. But—" he fastened it around Ilara's neck. "She'd want you to have it, want you to transform it from grief token into hope symbol." Ilara touched the pendant, feeling the weight of history and possibility combined. "Are you sure?" "Yes, because you taught me that honoring the past doesn't mean staying trapped in it." His fingers traced her jaw. "It means carrying forward what matters and releasing what doesn't." She kissed him, deep, grateful, loving. They fell into each other like coming home, bodies and souls aligned. Two wolves who'd survived rejection and found something better than the bonds they'd lost, bonds they'd chosen, fought for, earned. Later, tangled in furs with firelight painting shadows, Ilara traced the scars on Kieran's chest. "What do you think Elena would say? About us?" He was quiet, considering. "I think she'd say I finally learned the lesson. That love isn't about control or duty. It's about seeing someone completely and choosing them anyway." "And what would Marcus say?" Ilara wondered. "That he's an idiot who lost something irreplaceable." Kieran's smile was sharp. "And he'd be right." She laughed. "We're vindictive. We're healed." His hand covered hers over his heart. "There's a difference." Outside, snow began to fall. Inside, Wolves who'd been broken found wholeness in each other's arms. The goddess watched from her distant throne, satisfied. Redemption wasn't given. It was earned through choice, through daily decisions to be better, through honoring pain while refusing to be consumed by it. And love, true love, wasn't the absence of scars. It was two scarred souls deciding their wounds made them compatible, not ruined. In the morning, they'd govern. They'd guide. They'd face new challenges. But tonight, they simply existed together, two wolves who'd learned that sometimes the best destinies are the ones you build from ruins. The moon set. The fire burned. And in the northern territories, under winter's embrace, broken things healed into something unbreakable. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment and subscribe. Because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.